When people enter the museum and contemplate the offering that the museum unfolds in front of them, it's important for them to understand and to remember that all these different exhibitions that are up at the same time actually are somehow connected. In a way, when we plan a year, when we plan an exhibition, we are always paying attention to the exhibition that is before, the exhibition which is after, and also the exhibition that are happening at the same time. In a way, a museum, the constellation of museum exhibition make the museum a permanent group exhibition, a permanent collective exhibition in which the space between each exhibition, the time between each exhibition contribute to elaborate and articulate content. So if we look at the museum as it is right now, as we are talking, we could say that maybe the overreaching thematic or the overreaching idea between the exhibition that we have up right now would be a question. And the question would be, what does bring us together? In terms of art, in terms of culture. What brings people together? What does allow people to feel as a community, to feel as a culture, to feel this moment of togetherness that the museum should be, as the idea that the museum is only fully activated as a space, as a place, when the museum is populated by visitors. So if we look at the question, what does bring us together in a museum, I think there's different elements of answer that we will find in all the exhibition up at the moment. Photography brings people together because of memory. Architecture, that actually should be the first one, is a space organized for communality, a space organized to be together. Of course, art brings us together, books bring us together, libraries bring us together. And around this idea, the notion of history, the notion of storytelling is always an element that is the glue of a community, as are mythologies, and to a certain extent also local tradition or savoir-faire. So if I look at the program that exists right now at Serralves, all these different notions that I just listed are somehow implemented in the different exhibition that we are offering our audience. I would say maybe I should start with the first one, the architecture exhibition that was curated by the American artist Dan Graham. The title of the exhibition is Not Postmodernism. Dan Graham was an artist, very important artist, whose career started in the 60s and unfortunately ended up last year when he passed away. Dan Graham had a long history with Serralves, and his work in many ways was in between the architecture, performance, presence, photography, and his writings. His writing about architecture is one of the maybe most important and less academic historian and thinker about architecture of our time. So we asked him a few years ago to curate this exhibition, to bring together his own history of architecture, knowing that very often his own work, his sculptural work, his video work, his photography work, or his work with performance was about the perception and the presence of the body in space. So Dan Graham actually invited, quote-unquote invited, with the collaboration of our guest curator on this exhibition, Bartomeu Mari, 8 architects, Ann Ting, Atelier Bawa, Itsuko Asegawa, Johannes Dürker, Kazuo Shinohara, Lina Bobardi, Sverfen, and Villanova Artigas in order to tell a story of architecture. And actually, if we start this conversation about what does bring us together, in this case, in this exhibition, Dan Graham unfolds in front of us how architecture as common ground brings us from an intellectual space, the space of geometry, for instance, to how architecture interacts with nature. How does architecture interact with urban planning? How does architecture interact with culture and with social issues? So with these 8 architects, we really have an analysis of how in the late 20th century, early 21st century, architecture is this sharing space, the space again that brings us together. When you look at the exhibition, what's also very important here is that you start with the architecture part, you start with these 8 architects, but the goal of this exhibition was also to demonstrate how Dan Graham's knowledge of architecture has informed his own work. And as you leave the exhibition, you go through a corridor or a long gallery that gathers models, architectural maquette of his most important works. And as you see his model, you remember what you have seen in the exhibition, and you see how these 8 architects are fully active in the aesthetic models that he has put in place in his work. So that was for the first exhibition. Again, I go back to the first question, what does bring us together? The other one in the palette of exhibition that we have in place right now is the first actually retrospective dedicated to the artist, the photographer, the bookmaker, the architecture aficionado, Dayanita Singh. Dayanita Singh works with photography. Photography, as we know, brings us together. We all have, we used to have family album, we used to have photography album that we would share, and through each image there is a story. Through each image there is a memory. It has changed now. Of course it exists through digital media, but the most important digital outlets are photo-based. I don't know if we can't quantify the numbers of hours that globally the world population spend on Instagram every day, but it's all photo-based. Why? Because a photo shares a story, and it's exactly what Dayanita Singh has done. It's not only about the story, it's about the story and the history of photography itself. Dayanita Singh has reinvented 2 things: the way to present photography, the way to disseminate photography, and the notion of museum. It's clear in her work that she fully understands that maybe the best space for photography is not the wall of a museum, but it might be the intimate space and the intimate time that you spend with one image in a book. This notion of intimacy is very important in our work, vis-a-vis the visitor, the viewer. How do you build this moment between one person and an image? But it's also very important with the subject matter that she addressed in her work, that the characters, the individuals who populate her work, from musician, family, children she would see in the street or in the community around her. It's all about building a direct, eyes in the eye relationships. In order to do that, in order to develop this intimacy and to share this intimacy, she also has invented modes of presentation. She has created what she called a portable museum, and when you go through the exhibition, you see that this exhibition is organized in islands, each island being a museum, and it's actually quite beautiful to think of this idea that a museum is an island, a porous island, and these islands that she is sharing with us are dedicated to different aspects of what she is interested in: performing art, music, family, architecture, archives. All of that is connected. I mention architecture too because deliberately we have in the museum at this moment, at the time when Serralves inaugurated an architecture expansion of the museum, we had two moments where architecture is central to our exhibition. Not postmodernism, the exhibition curated by Dan Graham that I just described, but also an entire room in Dayanita Singh's exhibition, which is dedicated to her relationship with architecture, the way she perceives, she inhabits, she photographs architecture. And like Dan Graham, it's fascinating to see how an artist looks at architecture. It's fascinating for us to see how we can look at architecture beyond, I would say, an academic history of architecture. There are great moments in Dayanita Singh exhibition where she makes this collage where you don't know if you are in a Mies van der Rohe building or actually if you are here at Serralves.